All right. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Very good. Peace be upon you all. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you all for taking time out and joining us for our weekly Sunday. Okay, sorry. Just want to get started. Thank you all very much. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you all for taking time out of your schedules on this Sunday. Beautiful day outside. It's like the beach cruiser on the Strand day. Maybe some of you will be there later on. But just thank you all very much for taking time out and joining us for a weekly Islam 101 class. For those of you, this is your first time, or those that are joining us live, this session is different from Friday. As you guys know, we have two classes every week in, week out. Every Friday, we have something called Coffee with the Shaykh, which is an open QA session, literally fire away questions. And that's why we love having Shaykh Tarik. We just keep firing away, and he's patient with us. 1 hour of questions, right? So that's on Friday. Sunday is a bit more structured in that we have a topic and we cover the topic as well, right? And then, of course, open QA per the topic at the end of the session as well. So thank you all very much. We're going to get started shortly. Just a reminder that we do have some refreshments and food and all that good stuff in the back. So please don't feel shy. This is your home, meaning please, house of God, house of Allah, help yourself to whatever that you folks need. It's a family here, and I appreciate you guys all taking time out as well. With us, we have our dear Shaykh, Shaykh Tarik. Shaykh Tarik, as you guys know, or if this is your first time, he is the Imam or the religious director of OCIF, Orange County Islamic Foundation, the mosque in Mission Viejo, of course, South OC. So if you're in that part of the county, make sure to visit him and his wonderful community. We have a very, I loved it when he messaged me about the topic, and I think it's a beautiful topic. I'm going to ask Sheikh Tariq momentarily to elaborate on that. It's very important and something I think in our context here as well, very important as well. So we'll have the conversation with Sheikh Tariq, and then if you have any questions per the topic, feel free to jot them down or keep a mental note, and then we'll get to that as well, and then some announcements at the tail end. Sheikh Tariq, as usual, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and from your family and everything that you're doing to be here with us. So floor is all yours. Thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wassalam ala rasulillah. We begin by praising God because He is worthy of praise. And we remind ourselves that our Lord that we worship is the benevolent and the most merciful. And for that reason, we find that it is in our best interest to worship Him. And we ask God to send His peace and blessings and His praise upon the last and final messenger, His family, His companions, and all those who follow His way until the end of time. The topic I'd like to discuss today is a very sensitive topic. It's a heavy topic, but is one that needs to be addressed every now and then. No matter how much we address it, we can never fully eradicate this major problem, but at least we can equip ourselves with the necessary tools to prevent it from happening to our lives and the people around us, and hopefully reduce the numbers overall. And before I introduce that topic, I'd like to start off with an anecdote. I actually heard this from one of the national speakers, and it's quite a painful but beautiful story at the same time. A lady says that she had a dream. She's telling this imam she had a dream. And in that dream, she saw herself on a hospital bed full of injuries. And next to her was this very good-looking and charismatic lady with the hijab. And this lady was nursing her wounds. She's taking care of her. Now, the one seeing this dream does not know who this lady is. And so she asks her, "Who are you?" And she responds, "I am Asiya, the wife of Fir'aun." I am Asiya, the wife of Fir'aun. We in Islam, we believe that some dreams have a meaning. There's something going on here. And this dream for this lady was reflecting her own struggle. This lady was struggling with domestic violence. Her husband was extremely violent towards her. And this is here where? In America, in a Muslim community. And remind me at the end to explain what the dream meant, because I might forget it. So remind me if I forget it. But it is so relevant that the lady that came to her in this dream, who was nursing her and helping her with her wounds, was Asiya. Because Asiya was a victim of domestic violence. In fact, it cost her her life. She died because of the violence of the Pharaoh. And her story is explained in the Quran. And God tells us in the Quran, O you who believe, we give you an example, a role model to follow. And the role model is Asiya, the wife of the Pharaoh. And God is talking to women as well as men. She is a role model for us who faced a very relevant challenge that we see today. Now, as a caveat, I try my best not to talk about issues in which I am currently engaging. So I'm not talking about someone who came to me and says, I'm going through this, and now I'm kind of talking about piggybacking off their experience. Rather, I'm talking about this because 2 or 3 days ago, I saw a news article from Massachusetts, and you see it littered with Muslim names. What happened? A young lady kills her brother-in-law, his father, and her father, drives to one of the local grocery stores, and dies by suicide, commits suicide. Now, officials have no idea what the motive is, but of course, they check her Facebook. What was her last post? Her last post was her venting, expressing her disappointment with what's going on. Her brother-in-law was abusing her sister for 14 years. And she says, his father and my father knew what was going on. They did absolutely nothing. And I wish this was the only article, the only case I came across. Rather, in the past several weeks, we find case after case after case of murder due to domestic violence. We all heard about what happened in New Mexico. One Muslim is murdered, second, third, fourth. Then the officials get involved. They say, it seems like these murders are tied. It looks like we have a serial killer. And the assumption was it was some sort of white supremacist or a bigot, a Islamophobe, whatever it was. Who does it turn out to be? A community member, a Muslim community member who used to pray side by side with these people. And although this is not 100% verified, but the assumed reason was that his daughter, the murderer's daughter, married someone he disapproved of. And so he went on this rampage, killing Muslim men in rage. You have another incident of domestic violence. I also saw a case, although this is an older case from the early 2000s, but nonetheless, it's still going on. A man, disappointed with the behaviors of his daughters, killed both of them. And the list goes on and on and on and on. And I'm talking about the past few weeks. And so I felt the need to address this. Of course, me addressing it is just one effort. It's not going to solve the problem as a whole. But my goal here is to equip us with the tools that will, inshallah, prevent us from becoming a victim of this or becoming the culprit of this, to learn what are the signs, especially the religious abuse, as I'll get to in a little bit. So the goal here is what? To equip. Also, to not be fooled into thinking that these verses and these hadith, which are often abused and used against that husbands use against their wives, or let's say in rarer cases, the opposite. So that we're not fooled into believing that this is the correct understanding of these verses. Right? So that is the overall goal here. And I'll try and tie this talk back to the lessons we learned from this blessed lady, Asiya, who our Prophet, peace be upon him, tells us that she's one of the 4 perfect women. Maryam, Mary, the mother of Jesus, is identified as a perfect woman in Islam. Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Khadija, the first wife of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And Asiya, this blessed lady. So the first lesson I want to take from the life of Asiya is that when the Quran shows her story, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us in the story isn't the why question. In other words, when you look at the behaviors of this blessed lady, she's engaging her situation not from the angle of why is this happening to me, but rather what do I need to do in light of what's going on. And this is so, I cannot emphasize this enough, so important for any individual going through any difficulty in life, whether it's something like this, may Allah protect us all, or it's another difficulty. People come and they ask me, I'm trying to grasp why this is happening to me. Or they already entertain the question of why, and they begin to formulate responses. Well, because I deserve it. That tends to be a very common response, even for victims of domestic violence. Why is this happening to me? Well, because that's what I deserve. I don't deserve anything better. Why is this happening to me? Oh, it has to be something, it's my fault, something that I did. Whereas when you look at Asiya, she doesn't ask this question. Rather, we see her engaging in terms of the what. What do I need to do in light of my husband? Now let's go and look at her story a little bit. Asiya was married to the Pharaoh, and now the Pharaoh's coming. He's not only the highest political authority in his state, so to speak, he's the highest political authority in the world. He's a superpower of the world, and he's a tyrant. And so unlike our circumstances where we have law enforcement, where we have a legal system, where we have courts, where we can go and fight for ourselves, Asiya can do nothing, literally nothing. There is no one who can put Pharaoh in check, the Pharaoh in check. There's no one who can say, what you're doing is wrong. There's no court that can bring him. There's no police officer that can put him in jail or put a restraining order on him. He is the highest in the land. She's stuck with him. Now imagine how difficult that would be on our minds and our hearts. But Asiya remains strong till the very end. And so Pharaoh, the Pharaoh, goes and marries her. And it seems like the Pharaoh was pretty tolerant of her during the early part of her life, or the early part of the marriage. He gave her what she needed, didn't really bother her, although she despised him as a person. That was just her fate. She dealt with it. But things would begin to change when we know the story of Moses. His mother puts Moses as an infant in the box, ties him to the Nile River, and then that tie is undone, and he starts flowing down the Nile River. And of all places to land, where does he land? At the doorstep of the Pharaoh, only to be found by the soldiers. Now, unlike what some people, the narrations they present, it's clear that this child is of the children of Israel. You're talking about children of Israel coming from what we call the Levant, Palestine. They have they have certain features that are very different than the Pharaoh and his people, who are coming from what we would call today modern-day Sudan. So it's clearly a child of the children of Israel. And Pharaoh, okay, this is the year where we're killing the male offspring of the children of Israel. Let's go ahead and kill them. What happens? Asiya steps in and she convinces this man, don't kill him. When Asiya saw him, she developed an emotional connection, emotional bond to this young child. And she said, you know what? It seems like we're sterile, I'm infertile or you're infertile, whatever it is. Let's adopt this child. Now you're talking about the tyrant of the time. She convinced him. And so he agrees, go ahead and raise him. She raised him. Moses is being raised under the motherhood, the guidance of this blessed lady. And then, I can't get into all the details of the story of Moses. Eventually, Moses comes to the Pharaoh and proclaims that he is a prophet. This is my message. Follow me. Follow this message. And his stepmother, so to speak, Asiya, accepts it. When she accepts it, this is when things become ugly for Asiya, become violent for her. And the narrations suggest that she was tortured to death. She was tortured to death by the commission of her husband. And this is the moment that the Quran captures in the life of Asiya in the 60 some chapter, I can get it for you after, in which God tells us, take her as a role model. When she said, "O my Lord, save me from the Pharaoh and his actions." Right? Save me from the Pharaoh and his actions, and build for me a home in paradise. She's not engaging the why, she's engaging the what. What do I need to do in my circumstance? And so it's so important for us to realize when we are going through a difficulty, the role models God gives us in the Quran engage their difficulties from the lens of what? What do I need to do? Instead of the why. And do you know why? Ironically, kind of. Do you know why? Because we will never fully understand the why during the difficulty. The why becomes clear later. And so we all know the cliche story of the person whose arm broke before an event, and he's all mad, and oh my God, I can't go to this event. Why did this happen to me? Only to hear that the bus that he was supposed to be in flipped over and everyone died, and oh, he's spared, right? Oh, now I understand why this happened to me. That makes sense. It's a cliche story, but the lesson is quite true. It's quite real. And think of your own lives. Most of you, all of you here are reverts. You didn't get here out of nowhere. You went through things to get here. And when you were going through those things, you probably never expected that this was leading you to God, to a new faith. And now when you look back, it's like, yeah, I understand why I needed to go through that. And so for those or anyone who's going through a difficulty, especially such a tremendous difficulty, that of domestic violence, during the moments, right? Of course, we need to look at the what. What do I need to do? What makes you proactive? Why imprisons you? It imprisons you, at least during those moments, right? And so we see this in the life of Asiya. May God be pleased with her. Now, to dive a little bit more deeper into this discussion, most of you here, all of you here, are not of the background I come from, or the demographic majority of Muslims come from, whether that's Arab, Middle Eastern, or South Asian. And so perhaps some of the cultural baggages, which is the second point of this talk, is not as prominent or relevant in your spaces. However, many reverts end up marrying people of these ethnicities. And so whether or not it's directly relevant to your own personal background or your family, shouldn't deter us from understanding what the cultural baggage is in the broader Muslim community. And so this is one major point we need to understand, because whether the person's a victim of this or they are seeing someone as a victim of this, it's traumatic just to see it. It's traumatic to know that your friend, or you hear of these stories, and then the young Muslim lady is looking like, what's going on? How do I understand this? I thought my religion is a religion that makes people good. Yet here you have all of these Muslims constantly doing this. And kind of as a side note, domestic violence is not more prominent or prevalent in the Muslim community than other communities here in America. So let's just be clear here. But the statistics are still pretty scary. 25% of people will be victims of domestic violence. That's both male and female, but we know that the vast majority of victims are female. So 25%, that's just huge. So what are the cultural baggages? Now, we need to understand that what happens all too often is that domestic violence is the result of parenting. What kind of a home they grew up in. These tend to be the most prominent reasons, right? Or personal circumstances, such as economic difficulties, such as stress in life. But the main problem, the main root is parenting style. And so we know that the statistics are, if a person grows up in a home that's of domestic violence, they're more likely to commit it or marry someone who commits it. These are the statistics. So it's really an issue of parenting. How was this person raised? How did he or she see his or her parents behaving with each other? Now, what happens is culture and or religion comes to cloak and justify what's going on. And in the Muslim community, what tends to happen is that you have the parenting style that's cloaked by culture, that's cloaked by religion. So what are the cultural baggages? Some of the cultural baggages includes tribalism. So tribalism has a very distinct framework, a very distinct worldview, that my survival is dependent on the strength of my tribe. And as a result of that, I need to preserve the resources and the image of my tribe. And this is one of the reasons why women throughout human history did not have rights to money, did not have rights to property, did not have rights to these things. Why? Because they see that my daughter or this lady is going to eventually leave and marry into another tribe and become their resource. So I need to restrict her from it so it doesn't go to another rival tribe or another tribe who might become more powerful. That's not justified in Islam. We know this, right? But you see the mentality here. Or the shame. If the tribe knows, the people know that my daughter married a man of another tribe, that's a shame on my entire tribe. How will we be able to engage in business with other tribes? How will people marry our daughters or allow us to marry their daughters? So they see it as a shame. And then you have the tribal killings and the honor killings and all the nonsense and the bloodshed that we see in the news. So you have this mindset that a lot of immigrants came with, whether there's Arab immigrants or South Asian immigrants. They have this mindset. You know, I know of a story of a man who married a lady. She's a perfectly fine lady. In fact, you could classify her as top-notch. His mother kept going after his wife. Why? Not because they were of different countries, because they were from different cities in the same country. That's so bizarre to us. It's like someone from San Diego being mad at their son because they married someone from Los Angeles. Not even that. I can't even say Los Angeles. Because they married someone from Escondido instead of San Diego City. This is the mentality of tribalism. You have brought shame to us because you included this outsider in our family. It's a mafia mentality. You have that going on. It's important to understand how people think in order to understand how they're going to deal with you. Another baggage that comes as a result of culture is the stigma around divorced women and widows. That if a lady is divorced, then she's shamed, she's shunned. Or if a lady is a widow, then, you don't want to marry her. In some cultures, if a man marries a widow or a divorcee and she has a son, that's a shame that now he's taking care of her son. So you find abuse cases against her children. Why? Because, it's a shame. What are people going to say? Cultural baggage. Now, in Islam, that's utter nonsense. The Prophet, peace be upon him, how many women did he marry? Right? Around 13. How many of them were his first, were not widowed or divorced? Only one. Aisha. Only one. All of his other wives were widowed or divorced. So if that was really shameful, do you think God would let his noble prophet or any noble prophet do something that's shameful? Absolutely not. There is no shame. In fact, that's not just a prophetic thing. That was pretty standard in society, at least in Arabia. Anytime a lady would be divorced or widowed, as soon as her waiting period was over, she'd have multiple men go to her and say, if you need a husband, I'm available. And she gets to choose options, right? And they never took it personally. Why? Because the idea was, as a man, I take care of the woman. I am offering you marriage because I'm responsible to take care of you. And so if she chooses him or someone else, task done. She's being taken care of. That's how it was seen. In fact, till this day, you'll find regions where, and interestingly enough, men find it find women who are divorced more attractive. There are places like that. But unfortunately, the overwhelming cultural baggage that you find in Middle Eastern societies and South Asian societies is that a divorced woman or a widow is to be shamed, shameful. Right? Another baggage, cultural baggage, is getting divorced. So when a woman asks for divorce, it's like a shame. Oh no, I can't do that, or else this will happen to me. As though divorce is a thing that you cannot do, it's taboo. Simply not the case. We have incidents in the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, where it was so easy. A lady goes to the Prophet and she says, "Oh Prophet, my husband, nothing wrong with him. Amazing, nothing wrong with him. I just don't like him. I just don't like him. I don't feel attracted to him." And her justification for asking for divorce was what? I'm not attracted to him. I'm not emotionally invested in him. I'm not going to be able to fulfill his rights. So it's better off that we separate. I spare him and I spare myself. So what did the Prophet say? Did he say, oh, shame on you? How can you ask? If you do that, you go to hellfire? No, he said, are you willing to give back your dowry? She said, yes, I'll give it back to him. Calls her husband and says, this is the case. She's going to give you back her dowry, and I have annulled the marriage. Very simple. No shame on you. No shame on me. No, oh my God, what are the people going to say? It's not taboo. Divorce is not taboo in Islam. Yes, we don't want to be quick into getting divorced. A lot of cases could be resolved in my own experience, especially younger couples. Right? Yes, there are times where it seems it's hopeless. Right? It's better off. Everyone's healthier if the divorce were to happen. There are cases like that. But let's be balanced here. It's not, you can never get divorced or else, you'll be shamed. I have cases where the father says, if you get divorced, I will not allow you back in my home and I will never be pleased with you. I will even divorce your mother. Utter nonsense. That's an extreme. And you also have the extreme of kind of the over freedom mentality where, I don't like it anymore. I'm going to go try something else. I don't feel that spark anymore. I don't feel like this is for me and I'm going to go and live my life. That's also an extreme. Let's be balanced here. We're having trouble in marriage. We're already married. Let's try and work it out. Try once, try twice, try 3 times. If you go to a family therapist, that person doesn't work with you, try someone else. I have cases where they go to a therapist or a counselor, doesn't work. They come to me, it works. It's not that I am better. It's just that maybe I was able to say something, or maybe they were more ready to reconcile when they came to me than when they went to the first person. So try different people. They have different styles. They have different way of communicating. Maybe they have an interesting idea that works with the 2 people. So let's be clear here. Let's not rush to divorce. But at the same time, we're not going to confine ourselves to a marriage we know is making us unhealthy. We know that's harmful, not only to those married, to their children, to the extended family. So we have this cultural baggage, and we need to push back against it. It's not taboo to get divorced. It's not stigmatized in our religion. It's not shameful in our religion to get divorced or to be a widow or to marry someone who is divorced or someone who is a widow. They're still people, right? And maybe that first marriage was good experience for him or her, that they will be a better spouse in the second marriage. That can happen as well. Now we get into really the crux of today's talk. And that is when Muslims who are domestically violent justify their behaviors using the Quran and using the Sunnah, the way of the Prophet, using God's name, using the Prophet's name. And I'm going to go through 4 examples that are commonly used. One is the controversial verse in the 4th chapter where God says, hit them. He says, the man, you can hit them. What's going on here? Let's go ahead and describe it. So in this verse, God begins by saying men are the caretakers of women. Men are responsible for the financial well-being, the overall well-being of their wives and the women around them in general. Mother, it could be a sister, daughters, etc. We're responsible for this. And so men, as we believe God created man, the male, that we are created in a way where we give. A man isn't bothered, I hope not, isn't bothered when most of his salary, most of his income is spent on his family. That's just how we are wired, so that we can take care of our children, we can take care of our wives, our mothers, and our sisters, right? So God begins by saying, men, you are responsible for the well-being of women. And with that responsibility comes an amount of authority, an amount of authority. And what happens when a woman begins to, I don't know what the best word to translate the word in Arabic is, but let's say a woman becomes a problem maker. The wife becomes a problem maker. Right? And what is a problem maker? We need to define that. A woman who has a conversation with her husband is not a problem maker. A woman who says, why did you buy this and you didn't buy that, is not a problem maker. A woman who says, I'm tired today, I'm not going to cook, is not a problem maker. A woman who says, I have 3 kids and I'm trying to balance all of their schoolwork, can you hire a maid to clean the home every so often, is not a problem maker. A woman who cooks and accidentally puts too much salt is not a problem maker. What kind of a woman is a problem maker? And I can guarantee you, and please give me feedback, ladies. I'm sure you all know of someone. Every family has a lady like this. Whenever she goes somewhere, problems come with her. And I'm talking about bad problems. Division between husband and wife. Problems between kids and their parents. They just have this nature. They have this thirst to create problems. And these problems essentially destabilize the family. Do you agree that there are women like this? Yeah, see? That type of woman, this verse is talking about. When a woman reaches this level of problem making, men, here are suggestions on how to resolve that. Number 1, talk to her. Talk to her. So many men growing up, I'm talking about immigrant men, growing up in that environment, we need to understand where this is all coming from, or the variables. We live in a democracy where anyone can go up to the president and say, I can't stand you. You are despicable. You are gross. And it is expected of the president to respond in the best manner. No matter, even if what the person said is completely false. This is the life we live in. This is the image that we have of our society. In the other parts of the world where there's dictatorship, how do dictators function? I say, you do. You question me, that's a rebellion against the state. And so you can imagine growing up in that environment creates a very similar social structure. It's not just a political structure, it becomes a social structure which trickles down into the family. And so you have this man figure, the husband, the father, who sees the structure of his society and believes that in order for me to maintain my family, I have to maintain this persona. Do, don't ask. If you ask, that's a rebellion. If you rebel, I had to put you in check. And so you get the hitting, you get the shouting, you get the don't talk, you get the insane punishments that come. And talk about crazy things. I will put you in your room without food or drink. This happens. It's a dictatorship mentality. And so when men are coming from this environment, they want to apply that to their wives and to their children, or to their husbands on rarer occasions, right? And to their children, because women do this to their children as well, from people coming from this part of the world. Right? But what is Allah saying? Speak, have a conversation. Growing up in a tyrannical and political system makes conversation seem like you're weak. If you have a conversation with your child, that's weakness. If you allow your wife to have an opinion, that's weakness on your part. That's the way they see it, and it's wrong. But Allah is telling us, have a conversation. Not just in this verse. Even when husband and wife are discussing, I forgot the medical term, when you take a child, an infant off of breastfeeding to food, what's it called? Weaning. You want to wean your child? Come together, discuss it, and come to an agreement. When you're talking about divorce and coming back together, marriage issue, come together, discuss it, and come to an agreement. And so Islam starts, your wife is a big problem maker. Then start off with a conversation. Talk to her. Now, again, women, give me your feedback. What I know is that men are visually stimulated. They're stimulated by what they see. Women are stimulated by what they hear. So when Allah is saying, have a conversation with her, that's the best way of getting to a woman. Talk to her. If that doesn't work, what do? The cold shoulder. Give her the cold shoulder in a reasonable way. It's not like I'm no longer going to give you any money, you're going to be starving, and I'm going to imprison you in your room. No. Let her live her life, do her responsibilities. You only respond to her in a very concise way and a very necessary way. Give her the cold shoulder. And women are affected by that. Why? Because they are stimulated by what they hear. If they're not hearing their husband talk to them, right, that's hard on the lady. So hopefully that resolves it. But if even that doesn't resolve it, then you have the very controversial statement, hit them. Right? What happens, now before I discuss what that means, what happens all too often, the guy comes and says, God says to hit you, and then bam, and then bam, you didn't cook enough, bam, and then why did you wake up at this time? Slapping left and right, beating. That's what it is. Well, let's ask the question, is the wife actually causing these problems in the first place? The answer is no. You're the one causing the problem. And what did the Prophet do? How did he apply this? What do we know about the Prophet? Aisha, his wife, says the Prophet never laid his hand on a single human being except in warfare or to execute a penal punishment. He didn't hit any of his wives. We know that the best explanation of the Quran is the behavior of the Prophet. Right? But you still have this when he says, if it's necessary, what do? You take like a toothbrush and you tap her hand. Okay, the guy's thinking, what's the point of that? That doesn't hurt. How's that going to stop her? It's not meant to hurt her physically. Right? But what kind of emotional message does that send to the wife? I don't know. Maybe the ladies can inform me. That's it. And when you look at the hadith tradition, it specifies when this is actually sanctioned. And do you know when it's sanctioned? When she's having an affair. Okay, wait a minute. When a guy finds out that his wife is having an affair, it's not about hitting anymore. It's about, I'm done with this. I'm getting divorced. Yet our religion is teaching us, no, hold on. Before you get divorced, talk to her, resolve it. Can you imagine that? This is what our religion is preaching. Resolve that situation. Don't divorce her. Don't shame her. Don't kick her out. But rather, try and resolve it. Tell her, you have to stop doing this instead of taking it personally. Instead of seeing it, she has betrayed my manhood. She has betrayed me. Rather, you did a pretty big sin, old lady. And you have to repent from that. And I'm going to help you repent. I'm going to help you get there. I'm going to help you restore your relationship with God. But again, the Prophet never used this. And we know that the purpose, as I was saying earlier, the purpose of this verse is to do what? It's to resolve the problem, to restabilize the family. Now, and again, ladies, go ahead and voice your opinion. In our times today, if a man were to do something like that, is it going to resolve anything? What do you think, ladies? I'm talking about this last part, the tapping. Is it going to resolve anything? Is it more likely to make things worse? It could, especially American-born ladies. Like, what are you doing? And so in our times today, I tell people over and over again, this part of this verse is not to be applied. Why? Because it does not reach the goal of the verse. And therefore, it's no longer to be used. I'm not denying it's there. But in our times, in our context, it does not fulfill the purpose. And you know what? Good. What resolves problems in our American context is conversation. And if the husband and wife cannot do it by themselves, you have these therapists, these experts who they can go to help resolve that. That's what we want. That's how the Prophet, peace be upon him, did it. And that's how we need to do it. So tool number one, right, is to be educated about this verse so that when someone tries to use this against you, or you hear someone, maybe a sister comes to you and says, this is what's going on in my life. Wait a minute, no. He's abusing that verse. He's misusing it. Because if a lady doesn't know and she thinks that this is actually what God is saying, she might sit there and succumb and just kind of submit. Oh, well, God is justifying it? Well, I can't say anything about it. And the guy will come and say, oh, what, are you denying what God is saying? And you start doing takfir, so saying you're a kafir, you're a disbeliever, you betrayed God. So that's one verse that's abused. A hadith that's abused is the following one. The Prophet, he does say this, says that if a man goes to sleep, a husband goes to sleep upset with his wife, the angels will curse her until she wakes up. We heard of this? Right. Again, what is the Prophet referring to, peace be upon him? Do you think the Prophet is referring to anything? I mean, there are some men who are like babies, let's be honest. They're what are they called? Man babies? Man child, right? They're emotionally not strong, and they're offended by everything. The wife asks him 2 questions. Oh my God, why do you do that? The wife gives him a call. Hey, what's up? Where are you? I'm waiting for you. Oh my God, how dare you call me? Right? Oh, I'm mad at you and God's going to curse you. No. Women have rights and they have responsibilities, just like men have rights and they have responsibilities. When is a man justified to be upset with his wife? When she transgresses his right, or she doesn't fulfill one of her responsibilities. But again, what are they? Sorry, guys, right? It is not the religious duty of a wife to cook or to clean. It's not. I'm not saying she shouldn't. But if she does that, she's doing the family a favor. She's not doing her responsibility, her religious responsibility, let me put it that way. Now, again, ladies, don't take this and just fly with the wind and go home and say, I'm never cleaning again. Nuh-uh. That's not the way it works, right? But let's shift our mentality a little bit so that when you do this, and it's very important, we know the health benefits of cooking at home. We know the benefits of having a strong family. We have kids. We want our kids to grow up in this faith. That's not going to come through husband and wife working day in, day out. It's not going to happen. It comes through a stable family where there's a bonding, where there's health, where there's good communication, where there's a healthy lifestyle. And ladies, that is going to demand certain things of you. Right? Let's be very clear here. So hopefully I redeemed myself with the guys, right? Cooking at home is always better than eating out. Studies show this from a health perspective, right? But the idea is we shift our mentality. She's not doing something that isn't worthy of being thanked. No, she's doing a favor for me and the family, and I should thank her for that. Therefore, if she decides she doesn't want to cook a certain day, and she says, you know what, I just don't feel like it. I'm perfectly fine. I just want to go out and run around. I have all the energy to cook. I just don't feel like it. He can't come and say, oh, you have made me upset and God is going to curse you, or the angels are going to curse you day in, day out. She's tired. She's sick. Husband calls her to bed. She says, I don't have the energy. Oh my God, how dare you say this? The angels are going to curse you. It's not the way it works. So, not to take too long on this particular point, how much time do I have left? I always forget when this ends. No, that means I've already gone over, right? I've already gone over. Okay, so I'll try and speed it up. Okay. Meaning of, okay. All right, so I'll go ahead and speed up real quickly. So when it comes to this particular hadith, a man can be justified to be upset, but it's very small things. And it's always going to go to the extreme behaviors of the wife, extreme injustices of the wife. Couples are going to argue It's natural. The Prophet and his wives argued. It happened. He never once came and said, oh, the angels are cursing you. That's another point. Guys, never use these verses to attack your spouses. It's not for you. If the angels are going to curse a wife, they're going to curse her whether you invoke it or not. The Prophet never used these things to psychologically, attack his wives. Never. And why would you want that? Why would you want that for your wife? I mean, I cannot fathom a husband who's sitting there saying, yeah, I can't wait for the angels to start cursing you. I mean, are you not on the same team? Or are you just so angry and disconnected from her that you now see her as an enemy? That's a pretty big problem. Another hadith that's used is the following, abused, is that the Prophet, peace be upon him, says if a lady asks her husband for divorce, she'll never smell the scent of paradise. Okay, to be quick and brief here, I mentioned earlier that a female companion went to the Prophet and asked for divorce. Did he say, no, you can't do that, or else you're never going to smell paradise? So is there a contradiction here? On the surface, yeah, there's a contradiction here. Until we start asking, well, who is this woman who's asking for divorce? Now, again, ladies, I ask you, in your experience, are there ladies who try and psychologically harass and abuse their husbands by saying, I'm going to go and divorce you? Yeah? That's what it's talking about. I'm going to go divorce you, I'm going to take half your wealth. There are women like that. I'm going to divorce you, I'm going to take your children away from you. That's who this verse is talking about. And now, ladies, let's be honest. Such a lady, is this type of punishment, is it just for such a lady, for her behaviors? I mean, in other words, let me put it this way. Is what she is doing an injustice worthy of being punished? Right? So we're talking about domestic violence. Yes, we say that most of it tends to be men violating women, but you also have the other case. Right? Normally when domestic violence, using that word loosely, is a woman attacking a man, it tends to be psychological. I'm going to divorce you. I'm going to expose you in front of the world. I'm going to make Facebook pages and shame you in front of everyone. That's the type of woman this hadith is talking about. So don't let a man come and tell you, or don't let a woman come and tell you that, oh, this, and that, and I'm going to divorce you. And this. Be educated when it comes to these controversial social issues in Islam. The last one I'll point out is the parents being upset card. Now, again, maybe this isn't as relevant to our backgrounds, but maybe when you become a parent, just to better understand what this means. No doubt in Islam, poor behavior from a child to their parent is problematic. And no doubt, a parent being upset with their child is problematic, spiritually speaking. But there are limits and regulations to that. Parents have rights over their children, but scholars by unanimous consensus say that they don't have ultimate rights. They don't have unrestricted rights where they dictate everything. You need to be a doctor, you need to be a lawyer, you need to be this, or I'm going to be upset with you. You need to marry that person, you need to marry that person, or God's wrath is going to be upon you because you displeased me. Nuh-uh. The scholars say who you marry does not fall under the realm of good behavior to your parents. That's your life. You deal with it. You're going to have to deal with the consequences, whether good or bad, not them. But what happens so often, and at least the Middle Eastern, South Asian cultures, is that parents come and say, if you don't marry that person, I'm going to be upset with you. And God will be upset with you as a result. If you get divorced, God is going to be upset with you because I'm going to be upset with you. It's not the way it works. Again, look at the way the Prophet engaged his community. Did he ever use this? Did he ever say, oh, how dare you? Did he ever say, no, you must stay with that person? In fact, the one time where the Prophet encouraged a couple to stay together, God interjected and said, that's not the way it works. It's not the way it works. So that's a prophet, and he's above our parents. So don't let parents be educated and understand your parents are outside of this issue. They're not the ones who dictate who you're with, how many children you have, when you have children, what you name your children. It's just crazy sometimes when you find it in these cultural from these cultural backgrounds. So just the quick point here is that who you marry and whether or not you remain with your spouse, parents should be there to advise, but they're not there to dictate. Whether you accept or reject has nothing to do with your good treatment of parents. And therefore, God isn't going to be upset with you if you make a decision contrary to the request or the will of your parents. And this is very important. Now, I had a last section about what to do in case you know someone or you yourself find someone who's a victim of domestic violence. Can I go very, very quickly, very briefly? One of the biggest challenges is the victim doesn't want to be helped. This is the greatest challenge those who are involved in domestic violence cases find, because we can't go on their behalf to the police and file a restraining order or any of this stuff. They have to do it themselves. And so in conversing with therapists who take on cases like this, they say we ask the question, well, why do you want to stay with this person? Why don't you want to go and report it? To try and shift their narrative, to shift their mindset. Try and take preventative measures before something like this happens, and that is to understand what is a normal marriage, what is a healthy marriage versus what is an unhealthy marriage. What happens a lot of times, people fall into an unhealthy marriage thinking that that's the norm, that's normal, right? When it's not. And always go back to the verse in the Quran that says God created marriage or instituted marriage so that you find mercy and love and stability. That's what marriage is supposed to provide you. And so if you don't find that, then we have to ask the question, well, what's happening? What's going on? And then try and resolve that to where you reach that level. Also being aware of these verses and these hadith, understanding the true meaning so that you don't become abused by them or through them. Preventing by showing awareness. In Arab culture, I don't know how it is in Desi culture, but in Arab culture, when you have a bride and a groom come and do the officiating of the marriage, both sides bring a crowd with them. And what the message that sends is that husband has his people, wife has her people. It's kind of like you mess with one, you mess with all of us. And what I find very often, and I'm sorry, this is relevant to the convert and the revert crowd, men who are narcissists, who will do domestic violence, will begin by isolating their spouse from her crowd or his crowd. And then will begin to paint a narrative in the minds of his family. My wife is crazy. She's talking nonsense. She's trying to accuse me of things. He's already creating this mindset so that when she actually goes and complains, oh my God, it's exactly as he said. It's exactly as he said. Oh man, this lady really is crazy. So you need to be socially connected. You need to have a crowd. And again, this isn't to be pessimistic when we start marriage, but we don't know who this person is as of now. We don't know the real nature as of now. You go in with a sign of strength. You say, this is my people. I'm connected with them. So that he knows, she knows, you start misbehaving, I have a way out. You start misbehaving, these people are going to come and back me up. Now, normally that's the family, your siblings, your father, and these people. But for maybe a revert crowd, you can create that between yourselves. You know, I saw a TikTok post video the other day where some guy he went on a road rage against some Latina lady, and it was brought up to the Latino community, and they went after this guy. See, that's strength. That sends a message to other people. You better not mess with us. You're messing with one, you're messing with us all. And that has to be the case in marriage. You need to have your people just in case. Right? And those people around you need to be aware. Because sometimes what happens is the guy is sitting there and he sees that her siblings are just in another world. They're disconnected. And so it's as if they're not there. So we need that social awareness. We need to be wise. We need to understand what's going on in the world. What are some signs like isolation, trying to frame this person as an enemy, as oh, they are crazy and whatnot. These are pretty big red flags. And then make sure you have copies of your legal documentations, your driver's license, your passport, all of this. Keep it in a Google account that he doesn't know about. And again, I'm sorry, this sounds very pessimistic, but I'm talking about in the beginning. Hopefully, this isn't going to be anyone's situation. But at least if you start feeling like, oh my God, something's happening here, what some guys do is they'll take all of her documents and he bounces, he's out. And now she has to go and look for all these documents. It's a mess. So have these documents. When I officiate a marriage, I have two contracts. I give one to the bride and the groom, and I give one to the bride's family. This is what I learned from Jordan. Keep it with you just in case. Right? And then use the law. The law is there. I know maybe they're not as responsive as for some, especially some ethnicities or some races as others, but it's there. Right? You can get a restraining order. You can protect yourself. And, it's a very, very heavy topic. I'm sorry for going, seems like a way over time limit, but I hope that I provided you with some benefit. And if you know someone going through that difficulty, try and find the resources. You have the National Domestic Violence Hotline. ICNA Relief, I believe, has here in Anaheim, has a shelter for ladies, so you can contact them. There are 1,001 people who care. In fact, you'll find more people who care, a lot more people who care than don't care. And so I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects all those who are going through such a difficulty, and I pray that we can be a source of alleviation, relief for those who are going through such difficulties. I'll go ahead and stop there. If there's time for a few questions, I'm more than happy to take them.
Shaykh Tarik, thank you as always for elaborating on this topic. A very important topic, you said, and a very, I think, emotional topic for some of us, and a very enlightening topic, I think, for all of us. So I appreciate it. So I just have a sense we have a lot of questions. So I'm going to slowly start to get up. But if you do have a question, feel free to raise your hand. And this is why we have Shaykh Tarik here among so many different speakers that are qualified, that actually have experience in this, that should something like this happen, that we can do our best as a community to navigate through this as well in the best way. So Sister Rhonda, I'll come to you. And then if anybody has a question, you can just raise your hand. Thank you.
I can't thank you enough for this conversation. Coming from a situation of emotional violence, everything you said is spot on. I want to say that abuse doesn't happen just physically, it happens emotionally and psychologically, and they do try and isolate you. But the idea of tribalism in culture, it's not just, Southeast Asian cultures. These shelters and these abuses happen with PhDs, with judges, with every ethnicity, every social economic level. It crosses all lines, and usually the perpetrators of these crimes, it's about control, and it's about them losing control of themselves, and they'll make any excuse to take it out on you. But the isolation is very true, and the idea of them painting a picture of you to other people is also very true. And it's about control. They become very obsessive on who you are. And luckily, I'm very, very grateful to God that I got me and my children out of that situation. But the person is very obsessive. So they've painted a picture of me in the community, as you said, of crazy, because I turned to Islam. But I do want to say it's very important. You should have your passport. You should have some money. And it's not like, oh, I want this thing to go bad. But as women, not just we live in a Western society, but for women coming from Pakistan or India or whatever the case, you have to have something to fall back on. I'm very grateful that I had a mother that always taught me that. But tribalism and control doesn't just take the form of physical abuse. It also takes cultural abuse. That's where this patriotism comes in, where one sort of ideology thinks that they can oppress another one because they don't have the same viewpoint. It's the same idea of control, instead of realizing that, we're all people. But I just want to say, I am so grateful to you for this conversation.
Thank you.
What's the meaning of the dream?
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. What's the meaning of the dream? Thank you for reminding me. The meaning of the dream was that this lady would be healed from her problem. And shortly after she saw this dream, her husband divorced her. And so she got out of that situation. In fact, the lady told this imam that I'm sending you pictures of my wounds. And I'm telling you, if you hear that I've been murdered, my husband's the one who murdered me. Right? But alhamdulillah, a few days later, he actually divorced her. So that was the meaning of the dream. As he was coming to heal her, which was foreshadowing that she would be healed from her circumstances. You're welcome.
I just have a follow-up question since you mentioned about the dream. So does that mean that you have been dreaming about something? It means something?
It could, yes. It could. How do you know? Well, let's put it this way. How do you know it doesn't have a meaning? How do you know which dreams don't have a meaning? That will help, categorize that which does. If it's a nightmare, it's scary, it doesn't have a meaning. One of the most common nightmares that people, especially young ladies, find is that they're running around naked, right? Or that they see their husband doing something inappropriate, immoral. This is the shaitan trying to bring sorrow and regret and fear in her heart. So something like a nightmare that doesn't have meaning. You dream about something you're thinking about. Right? You're stressing over, a test. You're stressing over work. You dream about work. You know that, oh, I missed the bus to school dream. These are just dreams that are manifesting what you're thinking about. Other than that, then there is a possibility that the dream has a meaning. If you see the prophet, peace be upon him, or a prophet, then that's going to have a meaning. If you see the Quran or the recitation of the Quran, whether you're reciting it, you're hearing it, that's going to have a meaning, because the shaitan cannot, falsehood does not come to the Quran. Generally speaking, if you're praying, you're in the mosque, these symbols that are cherished in our religion can have a meaning. Now, sometimes you might see something that you think has meaning when it really doesn't, but there's no harm in getting it interpreted, let's put it that way. I wish I knew someone. You're more than welcome to run it by me, and then I can ask the person I ask. Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't see.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
Yeah, this subject is very deep, especially, dealing with this as a kid, watching my aunts, my mom experience this. It made it hard for me growing up to see someone do this. I mean, I've gotten physical altercation with people I don't even know, from them being violent with women. You know what I mean? So how do you deal with it in a point to where you find yourself constantly going through this and the person keeps going back?
So maybe I didn't quite understand the scenario. Can you explain a little bit more? So you know someone who's doing this, you try and stop them, but they keep going back.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what do you think needs to be done? Let's put it that. I think you know what needs to be done, but I understand the sensitivity.
Yeah.
It's like divorce is pretty extreme in our times today, and extreme in that what happens as a result of divorce is there's a lot that goes on. Right? Exactly. And you don't want to play that role of, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's another way. Maybe this will come back and bite me. That's the dilemma a lot of people fall into, are trying to help people who are clearly in a toxic marriage, need to get out of. And so what I would recommend is to continue to encourage the victim to reach out to the experts. Right? Put it on their shoulders. They have the resources, they have the knowledge to make the better choice, let's put it that way. So again, as I mentioned, the greatest challenge when you deal with these cases is when the victim doesn't want to go and report or get a restraining order, or they have nowhere to go. But you can always continue to communicate with them, let them know that, I know someone where you can kind of lay low a little bit, maybe get your mind together. And that's another thing. If the ladies here, the group here, can have a place where anyone who's going through difficulty can immediately find a room to stay, or apartment to stay in for a few days that is in a this this not enclosed location, a private location, that would also be good. But again, you have Islamic Relief who can provide that service to the community. So just honestly, I don't know what more you can do other than trying to convince this person to, get out of the situation.
I just want to say in those kind of situations, they have 12-step programs for women and men that have gone through domestic violence that will help them because it's a psychological issue and it's a self-esteem issue and a fear issue. So they have 12-step programs, just
There
like
you
they
go.
do for alcoholics.
There you go.
Any more questions? Brothers and sisters, please help yourself. This is a great time if you
Sister
have any
Hannah.
questions. Sister Laura?
Nothing. There's a
Oh,
question.
Sister, oh, I'm so sorry.
As a Muslim, can like a woman ask for the divorce?
Yes.
I can ask.
Yes. So this is one of the common misconceptions, whether that's within the Muslim community or people outside the Muslim community trying to critique Islam. They say that divorce is exclusively for the man. No. There are 3 ways of dissolving a marriage. One is called the pronunciation of divorce, or talaq. This is the right of the man. A woman can't say, I am divorced, or I divorce you, and then, no, it has no ramifications. When the man says it, it does. Right? But the woman has another choice. That's called khula, which is an annulment of the marriage. She can go to the court, and here, there is a group of imams who look into these cases and will offer a annulment for the woman. So this is the right of the woman. She can take the proper steps to dissolve the marriage. And the third one is a dissolution at the discretion of the judge. So the judge sees a circumstance, a scenario, says that there are transgressions going on for whatever reason, whoever fault it is, and he can go ahead and annul the marriage. So these are 3 ways a marriage is annulled in Islam. One is for the guy, one is for the woman, one is for the judge.
Go back to Sis Catherine.
My question is off topic, so I don't
Sure.
know if you want to answer. I was just wondering if maybe you could talk about the retention rate of reverts. I have, and what can be suggested to do about that, because being in this community for a really long time, I've seen reverts come and go and never come back. Maybe even some reverts who've been Muslim for a long time, 4 years, they just leave. And I keep those reverts in my dua. I really do hope that Allah will guide them back someday. But I was just wondering if you had any suggestions or advice on how we can help our brothers and sisters.
Yeah, sure. Great question. So, Brother Jamaat, do you have contact information for those who accept Islam or have been part of this program?
Yeah, we have a detailed list. If I just wanted to add to that, it's a good point, Sis Catherine making. I wouldn't say necessarily one is leaving Islam, just because many times we are in contact with them. It's just certain challenges or struggles that they're going through in life that might keep them away from the mosque. Now, of course, there might be some people that might say, hey, look, whatever the case is, because I do hear this sometimes, not to kind of just brush it under the carpet. This is something we should be addressing, so I appreciate the question. But when someone says, the people are leaving Islam or something, one of the first questions I personally ask, just because I'm working on the ground, working with so many new Muslims, it's not necessarily they're leaving Islam because you still have somewhat of a contact with them. It just might be certain challenges that are presented to them that are testing their faith, right? And so that's why they might not be coming to the mosque as often. But yeah, we do have a database.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
So if you have the contact information, I think it does go a very long way when someone calls and says, hey, we're just here to check up on you. And women tend to be better at that than men. Women have the ability that when they talk to someone, they're able to influence a type of behavior, a type of response. So maybe you can have that as an initiative. Maybe you could have some volunteers who can just pick up the phone call, leave a message and say, hey, look, I'm calling on behalf of the guide a program here at IOC Just want to check up on you. Hope you're okay. Anything we can do to help, we would love to see you in the mosque. Then what are you going to do for them? I mean, this is a very basic tool of psychology. If a person doesn't want to help themselves, then, I mean, what can you do to help them?
And again, just to add to that, I think it's a great question and great concern. The first thing is just the concern that one has for other people. That's beautiful. Like, yo, I haven't seen you for like a week or two. Many of you will get like a voice note from me or a text like, yo, where you at? I haven't seen you guys in like a week or two. Everything all right, right? Here at IOC, one of the best, and I'm not pulling the IOC card. Look at what we're doing. I'm sure our community, like any other community, has our shortcomings as well. One of the things we instilled and instituted was our WhatsApp groups. So we have a new Muslim brothers WhatsApp group and a new Muslim sisters WhatsApp group. And that's kind of a way for us to, at least on a weekly basis, multiple times to check in with everyone, if you will, about the different classes and so forth that we have. But it can always go to certain things that you said as well, Shaykh, like just people in the community not understanding the challenges of people that might embrace Islam. Right. And so when somebody comes, for example, not to put anybody on the spot, if somebody comes in with tattoos and somebody from a certain particular region in the world that has like immigrated here doesn't quite understand that, and they approach them in a very negative way, this person who's maybe coming to the mosque for the first time, like, oh, whoa, wow, what happened here? Like, I thought Islam is all, so sometimes it's those experiences, unfortunately, that some people that are, they might have in certain communities as well that drive people away,
You can also reach out to maybe Islam in Spanish, see if they have a system of retaining and how they go about doing that. And see what maybe you can get some ideas.
But yeah, always open to ideas, though. Please, thank you so much. Brother side here, you have any questions? Shaykh, one thing that actually we just noted here was, peace be upon you. How beautiful was that in our faith in Islam? As you were saying it, I was just like, the steps that are given to make sure that the family is maintained, the family unit is maintained, right? As opposed to we look at other faith traditions and so forth. Islam is so detailed and elaborate on making sure that these essential parts of one's life, it's spoken about. So, for example, this better than I. One of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, when he was using the restroom, somebody tried to mock at him, right? Saying, "Oh, wow, you use the restroom in a certain way," and they're like, yeah, our prophet taught us how to relieve ourselves and how to clean up, right? I mean, as detailed as that, in a time where sometimes hygiene is not important, and a time sometimes where family is not important, Islam is there, until the day of judgment in the Quran and the teachings of the prophet, reinforcing that, right? I just find it very beautiful that in this time that, something like that is there, of course. Is this Ron?
I just want to make a comment about the reverts and things like that leaving. I think that Allah meets you where you are, and that reaching out, those phone calls make a big difference. Because for me and my family, we were going through something, and just the call of how are you doing, how's everything going, made the biggest difference. And us as reverts, we're coming from a different perspective than those who are born into Islam. Our challenges with the Western community that we've come out of are a lot different.
Yeah.
And even within the Western culture, you have subcultures within the cultures, but we go through a little, because I think the Western culture feels like we've betrayed them with going to Islam, and
it's
they
a type of apostasy.
Yeah, they don't understand the depth of Islam. So just that reaching out, even though some people may come and go, if that japji, that seed that was planted Islam is there because they came, they'll be back, or it'll stick with them.
Awesome, beautiful, I love it.
All right. And last minute, Brother Awali. All right, we'll close it off for us, my bro.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa salam.
I just got to ask, I hear the word convert and revert, and I hear it's being used interchangeably in the same way. So what is the difference?
You tell me.
Yeah.
I just use the word that I feel people prefer, which tends to be revert. I think the perception is a lot of people who enter Islam feel like this has always been who they were, that they've always been doing this. They just didn't realize that Islam was the actual manifestation of that. So they feel like they have gone back to their original self or their original state, or that the hadith of the Prophet, peace be upon him, the saying of the Prophet, is that everyone is born as a believer, as a Muslim. And so they're going back to what they originally were born on. Right? So that's the revert. Whereas convert is that you're leaving one thing for something else. It's like going from an iPhone to a Samsung. So you converted.
Had to use that analogy. That's my wife's argument.
So
every
personally,
day.
I just use what people prefer, what that community prefers, which I have seen has been mostly reverts.
I was thinking that maybe the word would be like a revert of someone else born like from a Muslim country who kind of strayed and then started applying the deen again.
Right.
So glad you cleared it up.
Glad I was able to.
So, like, just to add to that, actually, I actually prefer the term convert, and there's actually a reason why. It has a lot to do with dawah. So usually, a lot of when I go out, people think I'm Arab. So they'll ask me, we'll have conversations, or even people here at the masjid, and when I say the term convert, they're like, "What? You left your religion for this religion?" And then that's when the conversation really comes up, and people start to get curious as to why I found like God in Islam. So for me, I found like it's a form of dawah, or even changing my name. People wanted me to change my name, or were asking me, you should, or telling me you should change your name. You're Muslim now. But for me, I found keeping my name was a form of dawah, because when they don't hear Khadija, they hear Crystal. They're like, okay, tell what's your story. So I just wanted to add that.
All right, thank you so much. We can go another hour if you guys want. Inshallah. Yeah, Shaykh Tarik, I like to, hold him here as much as we can. As we say, he's like a warm summer breeze that comes along, right? You just want to hold on to that breeze as much as you can before it goes away. So, Shaykh Tarik, as always, it's a privilege and honor. Thank you so much.
Is always mine.
Brothers and sisters and guests, again, thank you all very much for taking time out. A few announcements, we'll call it a session. First one is, again, you're going to have this reminder coming week in and week out, our new Muslim /revert/convert graduation. Make sure I get all the terms in. Please don't forget, September 18th, Sunday, September 18th. I am praying and hoping everyone here and those that are online have registered. If not as of yet, please do register. And that just makes it easy for us, so we can kind of coordinate the logistics, the food, all that good stuff. We're going to have a good day, a fun day. As of right now, and today, of course, is the deadline for the exam. So if you're listening to this or here on site, you haven't submitted your exams yet, please make sure you submit your exams. I think we're close to about maybe 17 or so graduates, which is amazing. Alhamdulillah, all thanks to Allah. So again, if you are almost there, please make sure to submit your exams. If you haven't as of yet registered, please make sure to register. That registration link was put on the WhatsApp group for the sisters and the brothers, and of course the mentors as well. And if you don't have it, let me know. I'll be more than happy to get that over to you. But spots are filling up. Please keep in mind, usually on these larger events, we do have a capacity just because the NPR can't take like 5,000 people, right? So at a point, we're going to have to kind of put a waiting list, right? Just because there's a lot of people that register. We're getting close to 100. It's going to be probably well over 100 people that are coming. So just please make sure to register sooner than later. That would be my request to everyone. Number two is, of course, last Sunday, we went to Surf City, Huntington Beach. I want to thank you all for coming out. Literally 6 o'clock in the morning, we were there. It was amazing. I hope you guys all had a good time. A number of you are here that were there, volunteers, everyone that came out. Shaykh Tarik, of course, you came out as well. It was a good time. And so we're hoping to do more of these events where we go outside of the mosque just to kind of be as a family and hang out and have a good time as well. So again, thank you for that as well. And thank you to all the volunteers that helped today and every week that they help with our classes. When we come in, the tables are set, the food is ready. So please keep these volunteers in your genuine, sincere supplication, your du'as. Of course, we have drinks and some other items there in the back, some sweets, I think. So please help yourselves before we put that away as well. Of course, there's a donation box. Should you want to donate towards that, you're most welcome to do so as well. And here, of course, every week we are blessed. We are blessed that we have people joining the community, coming to check things out. First was Belen. Belen had to leave. She left earlier. I think she was here with Melissa. So it was her first time here, checking things out as well. And then my good friend here, I had the honor of meeting him for the first time here today, Mike. Mike is joining us here for the first time as well. First time here at the mosque, checking things out. He's on his journey, learning more about Islam as well. So, Mike, welcome. Welcome to, most welcome. Welcome to Belen. I know she's not here, but hopefully she catches the live stream later on. And again, I just hope and I pray that everyone here understands and knows that this is a place where you can invite people to come to learn more about Islam and show them the mosque and so forth, right? So again, thank you all very much. If everyone can help me out, we do have to put the tables and chairs away on the racks. We'll put everything up on the racks. If you want to grab anything here, you're good. And then we'll see everybody back on Friday. Thank you all very much. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all.